Hey guys, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize for the lighting. I'm not sure how well all this will show up, but I figured I'd go ahead and make a quick video before I started cleaning this thing up of my latest tool acquisition. I actually got this from my dad, quote unquote borrowing it from him for a little while. It's kind of been sitting in the corner of his shop for the longest time now, and really hasn't been getting any use. So I figured I'd take it off his hands for a while, at least clean it up, and maybe see if I could use it in my knife making and things of that nature, as well as some other projects I got going. But what you're looking at is a deWalt belt and disc sander. I believe the model number is 1765. It's got a 10-inch disc on it, as well as a 6 by 48-inch belt. And the motor is a 3450 RPM motor, and the sanding feet per minute will be about 2700 according to the specs. I don't believe deWalt makes this model anymore. I'm not sure what they make anymore. I'm not even sure how old this one is. All I know is that my dad's had it pretty much ever since I can remember, ever since I was a little kid. And he used to be pretty heavy into woodworking and things like that, and this was his main sander for stock removal and kind of finishing stuff up. So it's definitely seen a lot of use over the years. Like I said, it's kind of been in storage in his shop for a while. And unfortunately, that shop is half of a pole barn, whose other half has a bunch of horse stalls and things of that nature in it. So unfortunately we didn't have a dividing wall between those two halves, and barn swallows and other birds would get in, and they pretty much crapped all over everything in the shop, including a lot of my dad's tools. There's been a bit of moisture in there, so things have rusted up quite a bit. There's been cats and mice and all kinds of other things, I'm sure, crawling all over this, as well as spider webs and other dirt and dust. So it is pretty dirty. We do have a pretty good coat of rust on the tables here, so going to take a little bit of elbow grease to get this all cleaned up, but hopefully when we do, it'll look just about like new. And I'll make another video afterwards showing my final result. The discs and belts on this are pretty much shot. This one's coming off, which is probably a good thing, since sometimes these are pretty hard to get off. Looks like half the work's already done for me. I'll probably have to maybe heat that up with a torch, use some penetrating oil or some kind of solvents to get that glue to let go. But we'll have to clean that up nice and good. And that belt is probably pretty much shot as well. So we're just going to scrap those, and I do have some more on the way that I ordered from supergrit.com. I got some 80 grit, two 80 grit discs made from aluminum zirconia, and two 6 by 48 ceramic belts. And 80 grit as well. And I chose 80 grit simply because it's kind of middle of the line. It's not super coarse, but it's not super fine. So I still can remove a pretty good amount of stock pretty fast if I need to, but at the same time it'll leave me a pretty smooth finish that won't take too much touching up. And if I do need to go finer, I can easily transition to my 2x72 grinder over there. And put a 120, 220 or greater belt on my 2x8-inch flat platen. But as far as my intended uses for this, probably most of it will be handle material, just roughing that up a little bit, maybe flushing handle scales to the steel, rounding edges and things like that. I know there are a lot of knife makers that swear by disc grinders and pretty much use them for everything, from the initial stock removal to the flat grinds and blade bevels and everything else. I'm not really of that particular mindset personally, as I think it's too much of a pain to go through all the discs that you would have to go through for every one or two knives. Especially with a 10-inch disc, you're probably going to wear things out pretty fast. I know guys have better systems than this one as far as quickly removing discs. This one's just glued straight on. You could probably get Velcro backed ones or cloth backed ones to put on a Velcro face, but that's not how this one is set up anyway. So that'll probably see some pretty light use. But one advantage that this does have is a table that pivots up and down, as well as a table guide. So I can set predetermined angles if I need a specific angle on a piece of a scale, maybe if I'm putting some bolsters on, things like that. I can get very precise angles and grinding using this disc that I probably wouldn't be able to do with just a regular table on my belt grinder as easily. Another thing, we do have a table on the side here that we can use for truing up stock, squaring it up. This does actually pivot quite a bit that way as well, so it will angle back. I don't think it pivots forward anymore past 90, but you can get some good control there as well. And another advantage of this is we do have a pretty large flat surface for flat grinding and truing things up. And since I'm going to be using ceramic belts, I could even use this to flatten out blade stock and things like that. So we're going to see what we can do with this, give it a little bit of a trial run. This definitely has potential to be a very useful and well-used tool in the shop. But as you can see, it does need quite a bit of cleaning up, so I'm going to get started on that here pretty soon. And I'll make another video showing the results. And I think we'll get looking pretty close to new when we're done here, as this hasn't been abused too bad. It's just mostly dusty and rusty. But again, I got my belts from supergrit.com. I encourage you guys to check that out if you have not already. They have an extremely broad selection of abrasives, from belts to discs to flap wheels to sheets. Most things that you would need, most common abrasives. And as far as sizes, they have pretty much any size you could want as well. And just looking at their prices and comparing with several other sites I went to, I think they have just about the best prices, although they might have a little bit of a limited brand selection. They do carry pretty good brands like 3M and Norton, I believe. Normally I would probably go to USA Knife Maker for my 2x72 belts, just because they have a broader selection and their prices are pretty comparable. There might be a few cents difference here and there. But usually I get my belts at USA Knife Maker along with some other supplies. But if you just need to get a few sanding belts, or even a lot of sanding belts, I definitely recommend checking out Supergrit, as they have not every kind of abrasive as far as material, but they do have the common ones like ceramic, aluminum oxide, zirconia, and silicon carbide. So check them out, supergrit.com, if you're looking for some good deals on sanding belts. And they often have quite a bit on clearance or on sale as well. So keep an eye on that. You'll probably find some good deals. So hopefully those will get here in the next few days. But in the meantime, we're going to get this cleaned up and running good again. So stay tuned for the next video. And this will look like a whole nother tool. Thanks for watching, guys.